Hello, Cardstack community. My name is Chris C. I'm the founding director of the Cardstack project, coming to you from the land of the Web3. Today, I'm so glad to be joined by NodeReal's COO, Dr. Ben Zhang, to talk about the infrastructure that powers Web3. I think there's a lot of protocol that gets a lot of attention, but when you ask developer, what do they deal with day to day? What is the pain? What is the triumph? It's because they have the right infrastructure to deliver the right user experience and functionality to the user. And that's when the promise of Web3 becomes real. And, it's a node, it is real. And welcome, Dr. Ben Zhang.
Cool. Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's a great pleasure to join this podcast to share my company and also the future of the Web3 here.
Absolutely. It's fantastic to have someone who's working at the forefront of bringing the vision of Web3 from abstraction to reality. So how did you get to becoming kind of a champion of reliable infrastructures and the services to developers in the Web3 space? Were you a developer yourself, or were you observing some problems outside, maybe running a chain? Like, what brought you to this particular market opportunity?
Sure. Actually, I set up the NodeReal 2 years ago, right? But before this NodeReal, I was the founding member of the BNB Chain, right? Mm-hmm. I stayed there more than 2 years, starting from the 2019. I built that one from the scratch, from 0 to 1. Right. And even before I joined this blockchain industry, I was executive director in the Morgan Stanley. And when I was in the fintech, I see a lot of the use cases around decentralization, and also at that time, right, 2019 or before, right? So there's a lot of many talking about the Web3 yet, but of course the blockchain use case is quite a lot.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
So that's why
remember enterprise blockchain. That was also a thing back then.
Exactly. Actually, this time when I go to the consensus conference, I see a lot of the enterprise blockchain opportunities there. Right? But when I was in the Morgan Stanley, I see that's something dramatically changed the infrastructure requirements, change the developer landscape, right? So that's also why I joined this BNB Chain. Later, 2 years later, I find when I was in the BNB Chain, right, I can see the dramatically increasing in terms of the daily active user. Mm-hmm. So I remember in the 2021, right, the highest performance ATH active users in the BNB Chain is more than 2 million users.
That's crazy.
That dramatically improved dramatically introduced the big challenge for the infrastructure. That's also why I built this new company named NodeReal, focusing on the high performance infrastructure right now.
Right.
Yeah. That's my journey. Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, you were kind of building the protocol up, and then you realize the developer needs that assistance. So obviously with a lot of developers, the journey is typically starting with building a dApp on top of a public infrastructure, something hosted by the project or something like that, and then realize that you weren't the most important person. There's nobody to call an email, no escalation. And some of them may decide to run their own infrastructure, depends on their needs, and say, oh, how hard is it to be? And then, a couple months later, they give a phone call to your staff and say, hey, could you do this for me so I can focus on that? Is that a typical experience, or do you see people jumping into a node provider as the first step now in building a dApp? Has it evolved in terms of the progression of the infrastructure or the professional relationship that project sets up as they develop their product or dApp?
Absolutely. I think there are multiple levels of the developers, right? Especially, I think for some of the new developer for the Web3, right? The easy way for them usually just leverage the public service, node service, for example, Infura, Alchemy, and NodeReal as well, right? So they can very easily access the blockchain. Of course, for some of the senior developers, they may want to try build their own node, right? Node service. It's also okay. However, when you really go to the high performance dApps, right? So that's why, for the NodeReal, we are serving quite a lot of the enterprise levels dApps right now, right? For example, related stuff, Pancake in 1 inch, right? When they have this kind of high performance access of the blockchain, they may have to leverage the infrastructure provider like us, like the other similar providers as well, right? That's the different flavors there.
Yeah. So where do you think a protocol becomes high performance? Is it because it's popular? Is it because there's a lot of users? Is it because what they're doing is particularly complex, as in it's not just a simple swap thing? There may be some other supporting infrastructure. How do you define the threshold of which high performance is needed?
That's a good one. I think that this is also related with the like blockchain. When we are talking about the Web3, right, there's a blockchain, multiple layers technology there, right? One is the blockchain accessing, which is typically using the RPC or this kind of access or API access, right? And that's something like you can imagine. The blockchain itself is a highway, right? And this kind of RPC is something like access. You have a lens to access this highway. You need to make sure this trail to this highway, right, is super high performance. So this one typically is also very challenging, and that's also why when I was in the BNB chain, even recently we support the Ethereum, Polygon, Arbitrum, right, all of them. Then when they have the very high user base right now, right, the silo put for this RPC service is very high. So how can you make sure this low latency and also make sure all of this response can be satisfied, right? It's very important to be met there. So this is one level, the blockchain access layer, right? Another itself is blockchain itself need to be super high performance. That's also why recently we worked with the game, right? For example, the Nameable in South Korea, and also recently for Cobon chain for the Cocos engine, because all of these games they also have a high demand for the blockchain itself. Means that the blockchain need to be super fast, right? Means the like block time, their transaction TPS, right? All of these should be super high performance. So you can see that the high performance have different flavors, the access layer and network itself. And of course, we have different other layers, right? Like, storage, etc. But I do not want to go to that extent, right? So.
Yeah, that makes sense that there is the blockchain itself and the performance, and obviously public blockchains has certain type of consensus in it come into, like Polygon BNB has their own kind of method of dealing with that. In these kind of GameFi situation where you need super high performance beyond what it is, we see that people are creating either supernet or subnet or some independent blockchain with bridges on them. Is that what you're mentioning about the high performance TPS to create its own blockchain with its own kind of logic and consensus model or hardware to trade-offs on hardwares and throughput?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think there are multiple ways to build this kind of the own your own blockchain, own your own high performance blockchain, right? There are multiple ways: supernets, subnets, or even like BNB chain application sidechain. They are the same format, which means they have their own validator. They have their own network set up there, right? However, they need to have a very high performance consensus there, and also have the high performance access layer. Make sure, of course, storage as well, right? Make sure all of these application can run in super fast there. The reason they want to have this application chain is because they want to have the application itself, right? Especially for some application more than, let's say, 1 million daily active user, or transaction maybe like 10 million transaction per day, right? This kind of the cases, right? They usually need this kind of the dedicated chain there. However, for the supernets, subnets, and also BNB sidechain, right? We find that this one need a lot of the coordination for the application chain. They usually need themselves to manage the security. That's also why recently we recommended the layer 2 solution. So we are building something like based on the OP stack, right? So which means the application itself can own the layer 2 and can configure the layer 2 themselves. Right. Which means that, for example, this application, they want to have a very low fees there, right? They want to have a very quick consensus. So not consensus, the block time, right? We can build for that one. So that can also, because layer 2 linked to the layer 1, which can dramatically improve the application chains security side. And at the same time, they can have a very high performance infrastructure there. So I think we can see these two flavors of the setup right now.
Absolutely. And when you mention OP, I assume you mean an optimistic rollup, something that has its own sequencer, and if you squint your eyes enough, the sequencer itself look kind of like an enterprise blockchain, except it kind of settle in and leverages a certain security model in the underlying layer 1 chain. Is that how people are using it? And are there optimization technique to get more performance out of an OP style sequencer versus a more traditional instantiating L1 and call an L2? Is that difference between infrastructure and technique there?
Yeah, I think that's a very important direction we should looking for, right? Because for the layer two, usually the layer two solution, I mean the optimistic rollup, right, either goes through based on the OP stack or based on the Arbitrum,
Yes.
this kind of open source way, right? Of course, in future maybe have like ZK Sync, this kind of rollup, right? Sorry, ZK rollup as well as the layer two solution. All of them have either sequencer or like this kind of proof approach there, right, to make sure they are connected to the layer one.
Yeah.
However, because they have this kind of the different implementation or different dependency on the layer one, right? For the layer two, for the layer one, they have some dependency on the layer two, have a heavy dependency on the layer one in terms of their like block size, in terms of their finality, right? In terms of their like fraud proof algorithms.
Yeah.
So I think for us, right, even for the NodeReal, we are trying to optimize all of this area to make sure we can have a super high performance, layer two solution. So recently we in the Ethereum, there's a little bit expensive and also limited for the block size in the layer one, right? So this part may be a little bit too technical. But in general, we just in the BNB chain, right, we try to make sure we work with the BNB chain team. We migrate the OP stack into the BNB chain team, right? Try to leverage a large block size. Try to leverage the quick block time, which can dramatically improve the layer two's performance. That's what we are trying to do right now.
Yeah, it's interesting how like one assumptions when Optimism was doing it, it was assuming a little bit of the Ethereum mainnet kind of characteristic. And while the model works, the tuning is different. And I think that's one thing people learn when they're just doing even cloud stuff is that everything is just a database and some compute, but depends on everything. There's a lot of knobs to twitch, and you can get dramatically different outcome for either your cost basis or your customer experience. This is really interesting to look at the kind of BNB chain having their own tuned rolled up ecosystem. Are you seeing a lot of people building application specific OP base or roll up on BNB? And if so, outside of GameFi, what are the use cases you're seeing in that adoption?
Yeah, to be frankly, we're just the beginning, right? So recently we worked with we can see a lot of demanding on this gaming. That's why we are working on the one is combo chain, right, which is a Cocos engine, which is one of the largest 2D game engine in Asia Pacific. Have a lot of the users on that one. We empower that. At the same time, because we are working with the BNB chain ecosystem quite closely, right? We can see more high demands on this one. But beside the BNB chain, we also can see the Ethereum itself, right? Also have a lot of the people ask this demanding as well, right? So because for example, some of our partners, they are multi-chains, right? They want to go to the Ethereum as a layer two as well, but application specific layer two, right? Because their ecosystem is becoming very large right now. That's something like we see these trends, and furthermore, it's not only for game, but also for some of the social case. But in general, right, when we talk to some of our customers, or we are not just to try to let them, oh, you should try the layer two, right? We talk to them something like you need to evaluate yourself, right? Are you expecting your user base more than like 500K every day? Are you have this kind of large ecosystem to make sure these use the enough usage for this layer two, right? When they have this evaluation, I think we will help them to build this.
Yeah, so it's not the right thing for everybody. Some people do benefit from being a shared on the main chain or a chain with similar thing, especially if there are liquidity that you need from certain type of like asset point of view. But if your throughput is more important, you're willing to take the trade off. It obviously it does make sense there. Web3 social is very interesting to me because the primitive building block of Web3 social doesn't completely overlap with the product market fit on DeFi and tokens and NFT. NFT of names, right? Like don't really even fit into it. It doesn't make sense to create an ENS name just to join a social network. That's even too expensive on a mainnet. And again, ENS is a mainnet phenomenon and equivalent, whatever it might be. A lot of talks about putting like layer 2 access to ENS and take a name registry, but that's still talks. Are you seeing Web3 social, maybe not in the compete with Twitter thing? Are you seeing success stories of people able to get a group, a critical mass of users engaging against a social like protocol on chain?
Yeah, I think we do see the different pilots or try, right, for the Web3 social right now. It's absolutely not try to replace the Twitter or replace the Instagram, this stuff. So majorly try to think about and they're trying to come back to the original spirits of the Web3, right? The Web3 spirit is owning your data.
Yes.
Commercialize your data, right? So which also means which part of the data are really valuable for this kind of new platform, right? We can see some of the cases just happening right now. For example, the tutorial, right? We work with some of our partners at Question, right? They are doing this kind of quest to earn, quest to
right.
to improve their community engagement.
Yeah.
This is not just for this platform. This really empower a lot of the community member, other partners, right? Because all the projects can leverage that.
Yes.
At the same time, we also see some other info, for example, loyalty info, right? Really can bring this one into this social related stuff, right? And for example, some of our partners provide the loyalty platform and try to connect between these DApps and their partners, their customer more closely, right? So it's not like dramatically change the social profile, traditional social profile, right? It's still like try to pilot how to connect or empower the users itself right now.
Yeah. And then, as you mentioned in loyalty, there's usually points or statuses which can be reflected in either fungible or non-fungible asset respectively. You see situation where you have question and answer, you can earn kind of points or have incentives that is related to the community owned governance token or whatever it might be. Those are really hard to do in Web2 social, right? So I think that dimensionality of what Web3 adds provides another design space instead of just saying, hey, let me put a bunch of tweets on chain, which is certainly possible, and we see a lot of projects trying that. But it's to say, if we were to put the tweets on chain, what other elements of Web3 would work? What excites you the most about things that are combining Web2 and Web3 right now, maybe even beyond social? Are you seeing some intersection that is like, that's going to be an area of growth for users, your engagement?
Yeah, I think there are multiple places we can see, right? It's not like just, to be honest, I personally feel it's just the beginning. It's not like a very, said, this is a killer application. This will like dramatically disrupt the traditional Web2, right? To be honest, we do not see this one yet, but we can really see a lot of the different try, right? For example, even recently you can see the Polygon did a lot of the stuff, right, with the Web2 to try the NFT stuff. And as we mentioned, the loyalty is the very easy way to make Web2 easily to join these areas, right? Understand what happened, and very easily can connect between the Web2 and Web3 because they quite easily understand. Yeah. And but for the infrastructure side, we can try to see, right, there if you deploy this kind of platform or program into the Ethereum, it's still too expensive. So it's a very easy way, right? Let's say you have 10 million users for the traditional Web2, right? If they want to go to the Web3, I don't think that this kind of complex network, right, is a solution. They have to find some of the easy solutions there, or cheaper solution, or high throughput solutions there, right? So this is something like we can see the info side have a lot of the tries right now. Furthermore, right? So furthermore is I personally feel like creators program and also like a game still the key part, because the game is not just a GameFi, it's also traditional Web2 games, right? They are trying to looking for the Web3 opportunities there, right? So they try to think about how do they, for example, the game studio, they usually have more than, it's not just the one game, right? They have multiple games. Right. Usually they connect with them within their own, internal centralized database, right? Now, through the Web3, they have, through this NFT, through this fungible token, non-fungible token, a soulbound token, right? They can have a quite, tight connection between multiple games through this blockchain, right? That's dramatically can improve the connection or transformation for the Web2 game studio as well. Yeah. So we can see multiple different cases happening.
It's fascinating to see that, one of the big complaints or like the skeptics things about is like, why would a game studio want the NFT to be or the status to be sellable? And then you realize that a lot of game studio has a franchise and then worry about that this particular game may not have legs. They have a new franchise. How do you move user to that? And that having a common status system or letting you spend 10 hours in that game and then improve on the game that matters to you is a good way of redirecting their fans' attention across the portfolio and therefore improving portfolio performance. That's a brilliant way of thinking about interoperability as a way within a portfolio management strategy in the game. I never saw that. It's really, really interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, to add a little bit color, right? Because recently AI is so popular. So we talked to some of our game partner. They even, previously maybe a lot of the player just joined to play, right? But now AI and a lot of the recently the ChatGPT, right? All of these dramatically changed the programming efficiency of the programming, right? They may introduce this kind of AI into the game and make sure the user can really deep engaged with the game, building phases, right? With that, you can commercialize this one. So that's dramatically changed the Web3 opportunity, the game relationship, right, between the publisher and the players, builder, publisher, and builders, right? So that's a dramatically, opportunity, I believe. I'm looking forward for this part.
Yeah, I think the skill set necessary, even with the kind of like character creators or no code in some circle, is still a little bit beyond most people. So the number of people can do that are just non-programmers that does the programmer's job. But now with AI, you're getting just a way larger, maybe 20x, maybe 200x. I don't know what that is, right? Where you can describe the character you want or the item you want, and using the existing meshes and textures, you can mix and even behaviors, right? That you already, on even, AAA game engine, they have blueprints, which opens it up that to the much larger developer, but it also narrowed down the chance you're doing something wrong. So AI generation for those things could be really at the cusp. Like, I try to keep track of Web3 and AI at the same time, not a particularly easy thing to do. But as a person who has done a lot of creative type of kind of pursuit and stuff like that, kind of understand that kind of tooling. And I see this crossover that is just so interesting because the number of assets that's valuable will greatly exceed the private catalog ability to deal with that. And the blockchain is just a better way of dealing with the catalog.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned something about AI, and let's riff on that for 1 second. So obviously with AI, we know that the value is no longer necessarily in the tools itself, but on the fact that some of the things created with the tools, with people who are connected to the culture, but also expressing themselves in this high leverage language of English or whatever language it would be, they're going to make a lot of valuable things. So the number of valuable creative goods in the world may dramatically not only increase, but it becomes uneven. You don't have one, star making all the valuable thing. You have a lot of people like winning the lottery where the thing they generate in AI is somehow very relevant. How do you even get those people to recognize that a blockchain is one way for them to either register or commercialize the commercial rights? Do you see the need for blockchain to integrate with AI from the beginning to show people who are making AI product that these are not just, artifacts as owned by one company, like OpenAI, but actually is community asset? Is that even possible to have that conversation while we're building out AI? What's your thoughts on that?
I think that's AI and blockchain, right? It's a perfect matching to perfect tooling, right? To empower the creators, to empower the builders, to be honest. Just to think about if you are previously, right, if you are want to building the very fancy NFT, these kind of the images, right, or some of your reflect your ideas, how difficult you have, right? Designers maybe need to spend a lot of time to plan this one. But now one of my project partner, right, in our customer, right, they just have one people using 1 hour to build 1,000 NFTs.
For sure,
very high quality.
Very
very high quality, right? But where do you save? You can save this one into the very decentralized storage. So one thing I did not mention, we are working with some decentralized storage as well, right? You can save that one, and then you can move this kind of you own this one, right? Because if you put it into the centralized place in the traditional Web2, the ownership is not on you, right? Of course, ownership may be on you. However, you need to go through that traditional process, right, to do this kind of publishing. But now using the Web3, the blockchain, you have so many like open platform, right? You have very easily go to the NFT marketplace. You very easily link to this different community. Very easily find your partners, right, to build your application, openly and very quickly, right? You can pilot your ideas. I think that the AI plus blockchain is a perfect tooling to empower the real builders, right? Especially you have a lot of the ideas and you want to pilot, right? So I think this is something like fundamental. At the same time, we can also see it also some of the Web2 or traditional, some of the existing Web3 platform, they're also looking for this. For example, the ID related stuff, right? They try to use the AI to help the builders, right, to quickly build the Web3 applications. And also some of the metaverse, they're using the AI, right? Can quickly, build your space, build your like a vector, build your some of the like promotion, right? So all of this can help them. And with this, right, you can very easily persist everything in the blockchain and distribute. So that's the idea, I believe.
Yeah, and then obviously the storage is about both persistence but also distribution, right? A lot of storage protocol has some distribution partners or distribution mechanism built in for edge distribution. One aspect I do want to touch on is indexing, right? Obviously, a lot of times when you're actually reading these applications and providing query interfaces or access interfaces, people start having to figure out how they do their queries. And then the similar discussion of like, do I use a shared system provider? Do I run it myself? Do I have someone host it for me? It seems like you guys are doing indexing on popular protocols that are where performance really matter, and being caught up to the latest block size is really important, and the public infrastructure sometimes fails you at the worst time. How about that? What's your sense about where indexing is as a practice? And with these kind of NFT, the indexing also go into the metadata itself, not just the on-chain information around ownership, but also other information about traits and stuff like that. It's like, what's your unified theory of where indexing is going?
Yeah, so indexing absolutely, it's not just covering the latest data, right, but also cover the historical data, right? So, which given one example, if we are using the NFT as example, right? If you want to understand the historical pricing of this specific NFT, you have to get all of these kind of the historical data, right? To get this kind of you collect this data, you do this indexing, you make sure the user can have a very high performance query on top of that, right? And with that, actually, it's very similar as a traditional like indexing or traditional database or traditional non-SQL database, right? Because you need to persistent the on-chain data and off-chain data in some format, right? Then provide a very high performance query on top of that. The challenge for this one is, because there are so many blockchains right now, right? So even for us, we support more than 14 blockchains right now. So all of these blockchains, if you provide all of them, in indexing, and also connect them, right? Provide a consistent API, and also high performance, right? It's super challenging because you have a lot of the correlation there. Yeah. And even for now, right, we provide the archive service for the fungible token, non-fungible, and we also leverage our partners to provide other APIs. For example, there's ML or like compliance APIs, right? There's so many different API on the fundamental data there. So we, as NodeReal, we provide indexing API. And this data can feed into the other partners, like, for example, the graph built on top of us, right? The other, like deck screen, right? All of these kind of the different analytics service, right? They build on top of us. Different players can play different roles here.
So the information you're giving is more like kind of a extracted and archived and cleaned up data set for further indexing. Like what is your role in this in the supply chain on data processing? Are you serving the end user query, or are you just kind of aggregating what's on chain into a more usable format for further processing?
So currently we do not expose all the indexing raw data to our end user, except some of the our enterprise users, enterprise customers, right? They may want to go access. The reason we do not expose that one is, they are just way too complex, right? It's a fundamental database. You can think about something like fundamental database there. Very difficult for user to use. We provide a very comprehensive API to cover most of the use cases to cover like fungible, non-fungible, right? And also even including the DeFi API, we also provide. API, we provide that one, right? We understand the requirements from the users. So we have multiple different layers of the API provided.
That makes sense. So it's closer to the domain model. What would be expected for someone who building an NFT marketplace would need roughly these things, and you have a fairly good understanding what they are, and you try to present that data in that level of abstraction.
Exactly. At the same time, we also have an API marketplace, right? We worked with this partner. They can list this API into our API marketplace. So, they are not just building for their own, right? We can also help them to distribute as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think what is clear is that, the traditional cloud stack took many things and merged them together, and there's value. What you call that middleware, you call that service, you call that package cloud, turnkey stuff. They are necessary. Not everybody is going to Amazon and get the lowest level stuff and say, well, let's see how it goes. Usually the high level service shorten your time to market, right? Now, obviously it narrow out your fit to purpose a little bit to a particular domain, but that's usually where people starting out with. In your sense, in terms of like the application building block for NFTs, especially around NFT, are you seeing a growth of the type of use cases beyond just, let's say, 10K PAP, like these kind of profile pictures? Are you seeing adoption of other asset class, and how's that affect your understanding of the domain model? Have you had to expand what you include because of these new use cases?
Absolutely. That's also the exact reason why we invested the decentralized storage efforts right now, right? We are helping contribute for the BNB Greenfield, which is the new decentralized solution. At the same time, we also contribute for other decentralized storage, right? So because when you are going to this decentralized storage, right? So there is not like persist just image. Just imagine, right? If you want to do this decentralized TikTok, there's a lot of the streaming informations there. So we do have some partner. They really want to do the music related stuff, and that's a streaming, right? So this is the real stuff to connect with NFT, and with this decentralized storage, we have a very easy way can link their smart contract to the storage, right? With that, the NFT will have a more meaningful relationships between their this underlying like real IP stuff. And this is more like large data, right, compared with a traditional image. And furthermore, we can also see quite a lot of other use cases in this ownership side, right? Even like traditional data. So, for example, if you are the like a media publisher, right? So if you are like a journalist, if you are like creators, you may want to publish some like blogs. And all of this, right, they want to put it into these NFT ways, right, persistent into the decentralized, storage, right, and commercialize that one. So that's why we think in this month, starting from this year to the next 5 years, maybe that's a big year for the Web3 data ownerships.
Absolutely,
because I think we are talking to the Web3 data ownership a long time, right? But only the NFT image looks very sensible recently. How can we make sure this Web3 data ownership or commercialized, right, can be becoming the reality? It's something I feel exciting for that one.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how the necessity of the ownership of the actual assets on storage and the smart contract, which is kind of the spiritual title ownership of who owns it, is it's logically together, but physically, because of the evolution of protocol, completely apart. They have nothing to do with each other. You've seen like product like Mirror, which is a blogging platform, doing something on one chain and Arweave on the storage, and then the application is the only thing that brings it together. Which reminds me that in the very, very beginning, when I started in blockchain, I had an opportunity to meet with Vitalik and Joe Lubin when they were starting up the respective Ethereum Foundation and Consensus, and I saw the paper, and it was Ethereum, Whisper, and Swarm, right? So it's the communication protocol with Whisper, and then there is the storage protocol with Swarm, like a BitTorrent, as part of the same vision. That you know, they worked on one and the other two component, which is necessary for any type of application, messaging and stuff like that. Now you're seeing it kind of emerge through the community effort, but because you can have so many selections of which one of those three protocol do you choose to make your stack, they're not as interoperable if they were coming from the same kind of like well orchestrated services. It's almost like everybody agree on S3, but everybody disagree on compute and everybody disagree with databases. And then you don't have that nice things of doing CloudFormation and just deploying some Amazon stuff and have it all just work together, right? So do you see an emerging winner in terms of that storage thing, or do you think each chain will have their own preferred like storage solution? BNB has their own little cluster, the Ethereum folks have their own cluster, and Filecoin may step into the FVM territory and get more smart contract? Or do you see a consensus choice that makes it easier for you to make a template out there as a provider? It's like, please just use these three things. Can we just like get along here?
Yeah, this is a very tough question, right? Because it's really remind me like a long time ago, right? So when we in the Web2 world, right? So there are a lot of the different database solution, right? The MySQL, Coursera, so many different database solution, right? Even like cloud, you can try the private cloud, the public cloud, and also cloud also have a lot of solutions there.
Yes.
But so far, I don't think that there's a one bullet silver right now, right? So everyone try to provide the seamless integration, like Filecoin provide a Filecoin EVM right now, right?
Yes.
So make sure their users not only save the data, but also can define the logic, connect with the data to the ownership there, right?
Yes.
Aviv already also have that nature, and the StorageJ also have this one, right? I think Greenfield also doing the similar, try to empower the BNB Chain ecosystem.
Yes.
So to be honest, I don't think that there's a one solution can satisfy all. It really depends on the different use cases, right? Filecoin may be more suitable for the cold storage because the performance there. Aviv is high performance, so we still need to find the real use case, and why the public cloud finally win a lot of the awareness is because some of the killer application is coming, right? Because such as Netflix, such as the streaming requirements, right?
Yeah.
So when we go to this decentralized storage, we really need to identify what's the key storage, a key use case. Using us as example, right? We are trying to focus on the high performance storage. So because for the game, for the social media, for this kind of streaming related, they need a high performance, high throughput to access the database.
Yeah.
Sorry, not database, decentralized storage, right? So so I think I personally feel it still need to depend on the what kind of use case, what kind of the developer tech stack, right? You can provide, right? And a developer will choose.
Yeah, they definitely would, and they know the characteristic, and then the user would tell them, say, hey, I was like going to this new arena and the things don't show up. It's like, well, I'm just trying to stream the mesh, and that's not acceptable, right? You want to go in there and everything has to be there, right? And the latency that you find okay when you click a button on MetaMask and wait 15 minutes is not acceptable when you're in a game engine 2D or 3D, right?
Exactly. I think this is really driven by the user case, right? So when they are really building this kind of application, they will find which one they will go.
That absolutely is the case. I mean, this, the important thing here is Web3 is a set of technology that's maturing with people like yourself and other people and your customers working towards them. But we are still lacking that really kind of like obvious use case you can tell your friends about and your relatives about. It's like, hey, that use case beyond just like, things like DeFi, which is really, in all honesty, quite niche. And GameFi, I use a lot of game analogy with my friends and families, and I realize how few of them actually do play games. And game, as big as an industry, is not as like, it's not like movies or Netflix TV show. It's still quite niche. So I think it's going to be interesting to see if it's the graduation of social. Is it the AI making people more like creators and then demanding more of the creator toolkit, which I think I agree with you. Web3 is uniquely able to provide a turnkey toolkit once you realize, oh, wait, I'm a creator and I deserve monetization. And suddenly the money part of Web3 or the money part of the web start being crucial. And I think that I kind of think we have the solution for it. They just have to, recognize that they have the problem.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, this has been really great to kind of get an understanding of various use cases you're seeing in the frontier. When you're zooming out a little bit, looking at Web3, obviously industry trying to find its meaning in culture. especially as I'm sure there's different evolution in different jurisdictions or areas in geography, but we're still kind of roughly on the same boat saying, hey, the tech is way too good for the use case and user base that we have, and we wish more people can use it, and we can certainly either satisfy their needs today or have enough smart people to satisfy when the needs come, when the engineering can be justified. Are there something that you really wish by the, let's say, end of the year that you would see that would say, you know what, if I can see this happen before the end of 2023, I have great hopes for, Web3 as an industry? What would that be?
Yeah, I think for the Web3, right? So if we considering the mass adoption, right? Because now we are really looking forward for the mass adoption right now, which means try to attract more Web2, right? Develops, and also try to attract more new use cases can be tried, pilots in the Web3, right? So there are a lot of things need to improve. Although the technology, there are so many technology, but however, if you ask the developers, is it easily to build or in the Web3? Maybe not really, right? So given one example like private key management, right? Recently we have so many things already discussed: account abstraction, social logging, right? So many things already improved. That's good. So I think we will see a lot of these infra will be dramatically improved this year. I see. Right? So because there's it will dramatically change the barriers for the Web2 developers to develop the Web2 friendly applications, right? This is one, right? Secondly, is also the network itself. I think this year is maybe the first year we see so many layer 2 solutions, right? The OP rollup, ZK rollup, high performance storage, so many infrastructure related. I believe at the end of this year, we can see dramatically, change for the infrastructure as well. I mean, the network itself as well, right? For this part.
Right. Which means the network is able to give the expected performance that a Web2 user would expect.
Exactly. For example, cheaper gas fee, right? High performance output, because Web2 users is not looking for the second performance, right? Web2 users or mass adoption is looking for milliseconds performance.
Yes.
So that's a totally different experience, right?
Yeah.
And last but not least is more use case. So although DeFi got some of the challenges, I personally feel we still have a lot of the improvements for the DeFi, right? Even for us, we provide API for DeFi, work with the risk company to provide the risk related API. All of these are based on the data side, right? So the NFT game, social media, all of them will try different cases, try to see how can they connect with the builders and users more directly, right? Because this is super critical this time, right? Because in the GameFi, using the GameFi as example, so a lot of cases are not sustainable, right? GameFi, very few GameFi can survive more than 6 months. So they need to consider very, very deeply why they need the Web3 for this business case.
Yes.
So if it's just GameFi focus on the Fi, that's not enough. They have to focus on the real business there, right? I think this year maybe we will see the more real business and go deeper, right? So that's something I'm looking forward for this part.
That's really interesting to say that the GameFi part makes it a fireworks, right? It's explosive and it burns, but when it's over, right?
Yeah,
go home,
exactly.
right? There's only that much power in the ba, and then it's over, right? So it's interesting to see that the game itself has to be enjoyable. I mean, I don't think I enjoy playing any of the game. I enjoy playing with them as a observer of of the industry, but they're not enjoyable and a guilty pleasure. I wouldn't let me go play that GameFi game. I'm sure people do it for work as a part as a way of making a living. Do you think that that we may be looking at a situation where there may be some Web2 use case that has some Web3 component, and that's where we get the user? So thinking about replacing the implementation of a Web2 thing with a Web3 equivalent, we say, let's add coordination, let's add asset, let's add things to something that's already Web2, whether that's loyalty or other type of coordination related stuff. Are you seeing that type of Web3 as a decoration or as an embellishment that it may cross over? Is that something possibly space there?
Actually, we do see this kind of the trends right now. It's not just trends, right? At least we see some of the very big Web3, Web2 company. They try telecom company because it was one of our customers is from telecom. And we also see some of the automobile, right? And this kind of company they want to try. Actually, all of these companies they may already try traditional, as you mentioned before, right? Permission the blockchain. They may use the Hyperledger, they may use the R3, right, as their original try. But now the technology in the public blockchain using Ethereum layer 2, right, and also like BNB Chain, etc., right. They see that's something they should try, right? They can connect with their public, private chain to this public chain. This is really remind me the history of the cloud, right? So because previously I was in the Morgan Stanley, right? So Morgan Stanley is very hesitant using the public cloud.
For sure.
They have the private cloud. Then they build the hybrid solution, named the hybrid cloud. Means they connect with the private cloud to the public cloud. It's a similar things that are happening in the blockchain right now, right? Means some Web2 want to leverage the Web3. So they transform some of their, for example, their traditional supply chain using, this new public technology and connect some of the assets, connect some of the flow to the public chain to connect with more communities. So, for example, they can empower their membership, etc. I think I really see this kind of happening, this kind of trends already. And this is absolutely very hot. Even when I was in the consensus consensus conferences, right? I can see a lot of discussion about this one.
Yeah, and it will be interesting because if they do succeed, the number of users they're bringing over from Web2 existing customer base is large. So that means that you don't need to through either social media or regular media form to get person or Web3 user one at a time. They come as like, oh, I'm a user of this bank or this telecom, and this is the feature I use. Oh, and by the way, it's a very easy experience. You can do it within the app that you're familiar with, but it's actually on BNB Chain or some roll-up that's on it. And that's one way to get more users. As they maybe go beyond that little app, they say, hey, by the way, your asset is not just in this app, was in kind of genesis in that app, but it actually exists in the larger marketplace, and here's all opportunity. I think that type of on-ramping could be very nice.
Yeah, just to give a little bit further color, right? But typically Web2, they already have a very sustainable business for their existing own. They may not want to disrupt that. The reason they want to try the Web3 is try to looking for their new business, whether they can try to identify more opportunity, right, to empower or connect more users as you described just now. So they usually divide these two parts, right? Maintain these, very high profits or existing profits business. They're looking for for the new business.
new opportunity, new money. It would be very interesting for them to partner with the users in IP licensing. So it's new stuff based on the game's IP. Here is the right to make derivative work, but I also get 50% of the derivative you make out of the things using ChatGPT. Like that new things. And I know that I've also worked in enterprise before in the publishing sense in the New York media scene. So I definitely think of that crowdsourcing as initially very different. But then if you just get cut into the revenue and they're part of your growing ecosystem, I can certainly imagine one day Disney get open to fanfic that is monetized as something and give them some control over something like that. And that's really uniquely not monetizable via the traditional way because they only expect 6 writers, not 600,000.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Well, Ben, this has been a great conversation. I think we touched on a lot of things, and don't worry, the technical part makes it real. There are real problems to be solved. But I think the theme of what we have touched upon is that the solutions that we built, the technology stack, is for the first time really close to be able to provide that user experience. And there's a crossover, like a chasm. There's always from a user point of view of, are they going to come one at a time? They're going to come by way of an existing Web2 kind of freight train, or is it going to be some other catalyst, maybe AI or otherwise? But I am so confident that the technology we built is crucial, transformative. As a person, I'm sure you as well, that knows what we were dealing with and working with cloud, this seems additive. We still need the cloud. We still need all the databases. We still need all the network solution. But this is packaging it differently, allowing for an economic model is so exciting to see how this is going to end up.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's also why like NodeReal is here, right? We try to really, focusing on the infrastructure, focusing on the developer, most demanded, services, right? So ideally, we want to provide like one-stop solution. So we're just the beginning. So hopefully, the people right around they are interested in the Web3. They are starting, from Web2 to Web3. They can find the easy way to start, right? Either from our service or other like provider service. Because I think Web3 is super open, and we're looking forward to satisfy all of these kind of different, new mass adoption, right? Web3 opportunities here.
Absolutely. So if developers or people who are looking to build their own little business or home in Web3, how do they find out more about you guys?
Sure. So, always like we are always like quite open in our website, right? So you can go to our NodeReal to get all of this kind of information, right? At the same time, we are super active in the Twitter and super active in the different channels. Always can go to these kind of channels to reaching us, and at the same time, we have a lot of the blog to share so many business case there, right? For the initial developer, if you want to build your own first application, you can go to our tutorial. If you are enterprise, we have so many like case study from loyalty, from game, right? From the like creators, all of these different cases, you can get all of the detail from us. We're very, very, very exciting to support you. Yeah.
It's awesome. Well, thank you so much, man, for your time. And I'm excited about not only that you are serving your customers, but you are actually serving the community with guideposts and understanding of bringing more people in it. It is probably better than most people who have never done Web3. Not to say that we have solved all the problems, but if you look at the mainstream media, especially in the West, it seems like we're very far away from having the tech stack and the thing we do. I'm sure that's a little bit different in Asia, but the truth is the problem being solved every day. They're a solvable problem. It's more known unknown than unknown at this point. So I trust that working together and sharing the knowledge, we will be able to build the platform to enable new opportunity. Now we just work and maybe wait for the spark of brilliance from someone to bring the mass adoption happen. And hopefully by that time, we'll be ready for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we are at the perfect timing. Right? Let's just keep building, and whenever you any kind of levels of the understanding of the Web3, right? Let's work together. So we should try to pilot. We should try and building more deeply, right? Because it's a perfect timing to try right now. Yeah,
absolutely. And time to build, always time to build, especially time where the materials are ready and the imagination is really the only limiting thing we got to try. And as always, we thank our guest, Dr. Zhang, to share your insight, and we should thank the community for your time and attention for us to explore what's going on in Web3 and more likely is going to happen, and how we can find the signal of understanding where we can contribute individually, but also where the community can do and how it ought to work together to bring the decentralized future to the present. And as always, thank you for your time and attention. Until next time, take care.